What's the job of the first AC? What responsibilities do they have before the shoot? What tasks do they have to master on the actual day of shooting? And how much can you charge as a first AC? All of these questions I want to answer in this video. So hopefully with this video I will get you prepped for your first time being a first AC on a set. Or if you've done this again, maybe there's some tips and tricks in there for you to improve your skills and raise the chance of getting hired again. My name is Damien Cooper and welcome to another YouTube video. And if you're new here, this is your chance to subscribe. Initially, I wanted to bring you with me on set and walk you through what the first AC does live on set. Unfortunately, the microphone of my behind the scenes camera didn't work, so I will do this here in the studio and overlay a lot of cool and interesting footage from my last job as a first AC. Let's start with the pre-production. On bigger sets, the production or the DP comes up with a list of equipment they need. And a lot of the times they're going to rent these. So the DP or producer will reach out to you, the first AC, and oftentimes it's your job to collect all of these things from the local rental houses. After you gathered all the equipment necessary for the job, there's one of two ways it could go from here. Number one, if it's a big job, there's a lot of pre-testing, because you want to make sure that all of the equipment that you rented works well and also works well with each other. On smaller jobs where there's no budget for an entire day of pre-testing, you're responsible for putting all the equipment in a van and then drive it to a secure location. And there's a lot of parking garages in every city that are secure and you don't have to run the risk of everything getting stolen. Then on the day of the shoot, you will pick up that van and drive to location. Granted, both of these options are more for higher budget productions, and smaller productions, you just show up on set of the day of the shoot and the equipment is usually already there. For me personally, I rent out a lot of my gear. If I'm being hired as a DP, a gaffer, or a first AC, I always ask the production if they already have all their equipment, and if not, maybe I can provide it. And a lot of people actually like this because then they have a one-stop for all solution and they don't have to go through all the local rental houses to pick stuff up. So now it's here, the day of production. And it doesn't matter where the equipment came from, the first thing you do is a load-in. That means you bring all the equipment to your first shooting location. And that is not just you, this is also the PAs, and usually on most sets everybody just grabs something and helps out. So now we're on set, and this could be a studio or on location. Now the first thing that I do is build up my first AC station, and this could look totally different depending on the size of the location as well as the size of the production. Whenever I have the chance, I bring my Eddicam Max Plus camera card. I can use it as a mobile workstation or a video village. And there's also other ways we use this on set, and if you're interested, I can make a video on how to use a production card on set, so hit that subscribe button if you're interested in that. If the location is really small or there's no budget for a camera card, then I use whatever I can find, and this could be a random table, but I also found myself just rigging up a camera, sitting down in my lab. Once I find a place to work, I will start rigging out the camera for the first shot. And this could look totally different depending on the requirements. I could set it up for a slider, handheld, gimbal, dolly, you name it. I usually ask the DP for preferences on their camera rigging, where they would like to have the monitor placed or side handles, etc. And I do this either before the day of the shoot or first thing on the day of the shoot. Another task of yours is that you're in charge of charging the batteries. Get it? Never mind. Once the camera is rigged up with all the necessary accessories, like a top handle, monitor, side handles, a memory card, as well as a follow focus motor, I start setting up the camera. I will format the media, calibrate the camera, set the right aspect ratio, compression rates, frame rates, etc. Then if we're using a follow focus, I will also calibrate the focus motor. And this could look differently. On smaller shoots, it's pretty easy, but on bigger shoots where we have ARRI primes, for example, you can actually map the metadata of each lens to your focus motor, but this is for really high class production. The next thing I do is set up the video village. And what does a video village consist of? It's usually a wireless transmitter that is hooked up to the camera that is then connected to a 5-inch or a 7-inch monitor for pulling focus. And this is also what I do later, but I will talk about this later on in the video. The wireless transmission then usually also goes out to a bigger production monitor. This could range from 17 to 21 inches usually, and this is meant for the director or the client to have a preview video feed. And if you're interested in what kind of equipment I use as a first AC when I provide the gear, I will make a full video in 2 days showing you my entire recommendations of the products that I use when I'm being a first AC or when I provide the equipment for the first AC on set. And here again, on bigger sets, setting up the video village as well as controlling the playback feeds, etc. is usually the job of a video operator. But on a lot of smaller to mid-tier jobs, this is also, again, the job of the first AC. Now that everything is set up, we take our camera and we bring it to our first scene. So now the director, the DP and the gaffer can start lighting for our first shot. And now that we know our lighting conditions, we can also start prepping the camera with ND filters. So now that our camera is fully prepped, video village is set up, we can start shooting. And once this happens, your main job is to pull focus. Here you're usually close by with the DP and the director, so you know what you need to pull focus on. You need to know the scene, if there's movement and blocking from the actors, as well as if you need to rack focus from one situation to the other, then you need to know that in advance. So now that you've successfully filmed your first scene, you start setting up for your second scene. And this could also include a company move. What is a company move? That basically just means that you take all of your equipment and go from one shot to the other. Because maybe your equipment is in the way for the second shot, or it could also just mean that the camera needs to be in a different place for another take. Again, it really depends on the set, the size of the crew, and the size of the budget, who does what. On smaller sets, the first AC does a little bit of everything. They also help changing the lenses with the DP, but on bigger sets, this is usually the job of the second AC, as well as the company move and helping move the camera around. There's different kind of ACs, but again, on these small mid shoots, you're kind of doing everything. Another really big part of the job as the first AC, and that is also a really interesting one, is you have to constantly put out fires that occur during the day on production. And I guarantee you, on a big set, there are things that are going wrong. And those could be really little things, like you're missing a screw or a cable or something doesn't necessarily attach correctly to your camera, so you need to find creative ways to make it work. On that last shoot, we wanted to use a dolly for a couple of scenes. And I told the production that I need a 75mm ball mount to attach my tripod head to the dolly. Unfortunately, the production provided the wrong adapter and we couldn't connect my tripod head to the dolly. So now we had to come up with a creative solution to still be able to make it work. And I came up with the idea of just getting rid of the seats and the mount altogether and just literally take my tripod and tape it to the base of the dolly. And that actually worked surprisingly well. Another small thing that went wrong was that our matte box wasn't really compatible with our anamorphic lenses. So we couldn't get them close enough to our lens, so we had some reflections from the glass. And the easy solution was just to use some gaff tape and just close the gap between the lens and the matte box. So to summarize the job of the first AC on production, aside from pulling focus, is basically to just do whatever it takes that the DP can concentrate and focus on creative instead of the technical. That is your job. You're taking care of the camera and that everything works. So you can just hand over the camera and the DP can start shooting. So this is it. This is basically everything you need to know to be ready for your first day on set as a first AC. But keep in mind that hardly anything beats experience. The more jobs you're on and the more different camera systems and DPs you work with, you find more solutions for problems that might occur on the day of the shoot. So lastly, let's talk about two things. Number one, how much can you charge as a first AC, and a little tip on how to get hired again. Obviously, how much you can charge as a first AC absolutely depends on the market you're in. There is saturated markets where there's a lot of competition, and different countries obviously also have different rates. So let's start with me here in Vienna, Austria. I usually charge around 600 euros per day as a first AC, and that also includes 10 hours of my time. But that doesn't include any equipment. Some of the times the production provides the equipment for you. Some of the times you provide it for them and you bring your own equipment. And here it really depends on the quality of your equipment as well as how much equipment you need to bring. Do I need to bring my camera card as well as a production monitor, or is it fine with just a handheld monitor and maybe a focus motor? Do I need to bring the wireless transmission, or do they already have one? So it really depends, and it could range from 100 euros extra per day for the equipment all the way up to probably even 400 euros a day. And again, I will upload another video the day after tomorrow on what kind of equipment I bring to a job as a first AC, and that includes the big things as well as all the little things that could come in handy when being a first AC. So generally speaking, looking at other markets as well as the United States who have also worked as a first AC, it's probably around 500-ish a day as a day rate for a first AC. And that depends on your experience as well as the production. A small indie film or a documentary doesn't usually have the same budget as a big studio project or a big commercial. So here I've even seen prices go as low as 300 per day when the production didn't have a lot of budget. So an average is probably around 400 to 600 a day, so let's say 500 without equipment. So how do you get hired in the first place? Get it? First place, first AC. Tough crowd. There's usually a hierarchy to jobs on set. You start as a PA, meaning a production assistant, and you just run around doing everything, including making coffee for the crew. And then you learn, and you're there all the time, and you just try to just soak up all the information and look at what other people do, especially the first AC, and the second as well as the third, if there are any. So then maybe on the next job with the same crew, you can offer to do the job as the third AC or the second AC, and then kind of progress your way up to the first AC. How to get any jobs at all in the film industry? Well, that really depends on where you are and your network. But usually Facebook groups are a good place to start because there's a lot of job offerings out there in different cities and different countries. So now you have been hired and you want to make sure that you're getting hired again. Here are some tips for it too. Number one is obvious. Be professional and know what you're doing. If you show up on set and you have no idea what you're doing and it shows, then you're probably not getting hired again. And yes, there is a little bit of fake it till you make it in there, and I've done this plenty of times in my career, but you also need to kind of find a balance. You can show up on a set where the producer tells you in advance all the things that you need to know in the equipment they work with, and you've literally never heard of anything and you can't even spell it. But if there's one or two things that you haven't worked with before, you can do your research beforehand, Google everything there is to know about that piece of equipment, and then hopefully it will work out. And sometimes you can also be honest and tell the DP, hey, this is a piece of equipment I haven't worked with, can you run me through it real quick? And then the next time I will know for sure. And the next thing, and that is as equally important as being professional, on time, and knowing your stuff, is just being good company in general. If there are problems, and there will be, then don't just say, hey, that doesn't work because of this and this. Try to come up with a solution immediately. Nobody likes somebody stating problems without also providing a solution for it. Just try to be friendly with everybody and just somebody that is overall likable. Because we probably all encountered these people that do an amazing job and they're professional, but nobody really likes them because they spread negativity and they're not good company, they don't socialize with anybody else, and this is not a person that you want to have on 12-hour shoot days. And maybe there's a bigger production next time where you're shooting for a week straight or even longer than that. And then you really pick your people not only for their skill, but also for how well they fit into a group. A next good tip is try to be proactive. Everybody likes somebody who does what they're told, but if you need to tell them everything, it also becomes a little bit old after a while. So try to look at the next scene and what you need to set up for it. Already have the ND filters ready. Maybe try cleaning a glass of ND or the lens before somebody asks you to. Just try to look out for little things that you can do on set and already have everything standing by and be ready for whatever comes next. So that's it. That's all I can think of about the job as the first AC. And if you like this video and you want to see more like this, then comment down below what other position you would be interested in me making a video about next. And if you enjoyed this video, then please give it a thumbs up because it really helps the channel grow. And I would also appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button. And I'd like to see you on the next one.